Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever, stopped to think about what's really going on inside your phone's camera?
Hmm.
Especially, as the phones keep changing, seemingly overnight, design's shifting in really interesting ways.
Yeah, it moves so fast.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into this incredibly fast-moving world of smartphone cameras. We want to uncover some of the hidden tech and maybe surprising design shifts that are really setting things up for future phones.
And to help us navigate all this, we've got a pretty interesting mix of sources lined up.
Okay.
We'll be looking at a market report on computational photography, which gives the big picture. Then there's a very detailed research paper on some really groundbreaking tech for under-display cameras.
Under display.
Yeah, cameras hidden under the screen. And finally, we've got some of the latest leaks, the rumors about some potentially big design changes coming to the iPhone 17 Pro.
Oh, interesting. So a mix of the industry view, deep tech, and future product buzz.
Exactly. And the goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is basically to pull out the most important bits from all of these, different angles. Help you understand not just what's changing with these cameras, but maybe more importantly, why it matters for how we'll all be capturing photos and, well, viewing the world through our phones.
All right, sounds good. Let's get into it. Where should we start? Maybe with that design dream you mentioned.
Yeah, let's kick things off there. Section 1, the kind of invisible revolution, making cameras disappear.
Right, the ultimate goal for smartphone makers for ages, it seems. A truly full-screen phone, no distractions, no notches, no little punch holes, just screen.
That's exactly where this idea of the under-display camera, UDC, comes in.
Okay.
It is literally what it sounds like. The camera is mounted underneath the display panel itself,
Right.
which allows for that, seamless full-screen experience everyone wants.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is the big but.
There's always a but.
There always is. What's fascinating here is trying to shoot through a screen inevitably leads to, well, image degradation. It's a major challenge.
Yeah, it makes sense. The screen itself, the pixels, the layers, they're physically in the way of the light reaching the sensor, right?
Precisely. It blocks some light, it bends some light, it adds noise. It's a fundamental hurdle.
So the very thing giving us that perfect screen messes up the camera. How do you even start to fix that? Sounds almost impossible.
Well, that's the core problem this research paper really digs into. And they have some incredibly clever solutions. First off, they developed a really realistic optical model of the whole UDC system.
An optical model, okay, like a simulation.
Exactly. A precise map of how the light gets distorted passing through the screen layers. They even accounted for light hitting straight on, normal incidents, and light coming in from the sides, oblique angles.
Okay, so they mapped out the problem in detail.
Right. But understanding the problem is one thing, fixing it is another. And their key breakthrough is what they call a new pixel-wise controllable architecture.
Pixel-wise controllable architecture. Okay, that sounds technical. Break that down a bit. What does that mean for the picture itself?
It basically means they built a system that can adjust the correction applied to each individual pixel in the final image. It's not a single filter applied everywhere.
Ah, okay, so it's targeted.
Highly targeted. It's specifically designed to fight that unique, spatially variant diffraction, blur, and noise. Fancy terms, but it just means the blur and the graininess aren't the same across the whole picture when you shoot through a screen. It varies.
Right, like maybe it's worse near the edges or something.
Exactly. Or different depending on the screen pattern above it. So this system adapts the fix, pixel by pixel, to whatever specific distortion is happening right there.
That's smart.
And to make that system work even better, they did something clever with the display itself. They actually replaced some of the regular display pixels with tiny transparent window areas.
Transparent windows, so little holes in the pixel grid?
Sort of, yeah. But they're arranged very regularly. And this isn't just about letting more light through, although that helps. The key is that this regular pattern makes the way the screen messes up the light, the degradation patterns, much simpler and more predictable.
Ah, I see. So instead of random distortion, it becomes a known, repeatable pattern.
Precisely. It makes predicting those degradation kernels much, much easier for the software.
Degradation kernels. Can you give us an analogy for that?
Sure. Think of a degradation kernel as like a tiny, unique fingerprint of the distortion caused by the screen at every single point. It tells the software exactly how the light got smeared or shifted.
Okay.
By making those transparent windows regular, they basically turned a messy, unpredictable fingerprint into a clear, consistent stamp. That consistency makes it way easier for the software to know exactly how to reverse the distortion.
Got it. That makes sense.
And the real engine behind all this correction is deep learning. AI, essentially.
Of course, AI is everywhere.
Well, it's shown really remarkable results in fixing images, denoising, deblurring, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And the system uses what they call controllable networks,
Meaning?
meaning it's not just one fixed correction. Based on certain control parameters the system figures out, it can generate different correction results. It's incredibly adaptive.
Wow. Okay, so it sounds incredibly complex mathematically speaking, but does it actually work efficiently on a phone? Like, does it kill your battery trying to do all this processing?
That's actually one of the really neat parts. They found a way to make it surprisingly efficient. Those complex degradation kernels, those distortion fingerprints, which could be huge mathematically,
Yeah.
they found they can represent them very accurately using just 7 semantic parameters.
7 numbers instead of a huge map.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It massively cuts down the computational work needed. And the error rate they reported, like 0.29% to 0.32% root mean square error, that's tiny.
Yeah.
It means this approach is genuinely practical for a phone.
That's impressive. And what about noise? The graininess?
They tackled that too. Noise in these situations is tricky. It's signal dependent and varies across the image. They simplified it using a specific statistical model, a heteroscedastic Gaussian model, which sounds complicated,
It does.
but it just lets them estimate and reduce the noise really precisely.
Okay, so the tech sounds solid, but what about the actual photos? Do they look good?
Well, the proof is in the pudding,
Yeah.
right, or the pixels. And yeah, their method didn't just score better on technical charts. It produced images with superior quantitative performance as well as higher perceptual quality compared to older methods.
So visibly better.
Definitely. They showed examples like text on a sign in a photo being much clearer. You could read telephone on a red phone box, where it's just a blur before. Or test charts showing much sharper lines. It even fixed weird stuff like skewed blurs in corner regions that other methods struggled with.
Okay, so wrapping up this section,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway for, someone listening who just uses their phone camera?
The big takeaway is that this kind of research provides the core technical foundation needed to actually make under-display cameras work well. It means we're genuinely getting closer to that dream of a sleek, all-screen phone without having to compromise on camera quality. It's a huge step.
Very cool. Okay, so from making cameras invisible, let's pivot completely. Section 2, a camera that's rumored to become, well, very visible. This iPhone 17 Pro rumor.
Right. A totally different direction.
Yeah, this one feels like it flips things around. We're hearing about a potentially massive change to the iPhone camera bump. What's driving this?
It's definitely grabbing headlines. The rumor, supported by leaked drawings and even case designs showing up online, is that the iPhone 17 Pro might get this enormous bar that will stretch from edge to edge.
A horizontal bar, kind of like the Google Pixel phone.
Exactly. People are drawing that comparison.
Yeah.
A pixel-like horizontal camera bar. But what's interesting and raises a question is that the leaks also suggest the actual camera lenses inside that bar will still be in a triangular layout like they are now.
Huh. So the bar itself isn't dictating the lens placement.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Which makes you ask, okay, what's the functional reason for this huge bar then? It seems it's not purely cosmetic.
Right. There must be a technical driver.
And the big reveal, according to these leaks, seems to be mainly about a major camera upgrade. Specifically, the telephoto lens.
Zoom lens.
Yeah. The rumor is they're planning to replace the current 12-megapixel telephoto with a new 48-megapixel unit.
Whoa, okay. That's a big jump in resolution. Same zoom level, though.
Supposedly, yes.
Yeah.
Maintaining the same 10x optical zoom level. But here's the physics problem. If you cram way more pixels onto a sensor without making the sensor bigger, each pixel becomes tiny.
Right, and smaller pixels capture less light, especially bad for zoom lenses, which already need a lot of light.
Exactly. It really affects light gathering capabilities. So, Apple's apparent solution, they need to increase the sensor size for that new 48MP telephoto lens.
Okay, bigger sensor for the bigger megapixel count. Makes sense. But phones are already so tightly packed inside. How do you fit a physically larger camera sensor in there?
This is where the clever engineering and the reason for the bar supposedly comes in. To fit this larger telephoto sensor without a massive internal redesign, Apple will reportedly rotate the telephoto lens module itself.
Rotate it, like turn it sideways inside the phone?
Kind of, yeah. Think of turning a long component 90 degrees to fit it into a space. But doing that rotation, apparently, will leave no space for the LiDAR module in its current location.
Ah, the domino effect. Moving one thing bumps another.
Exactly. So consequently, the LiDAR scanner, the depth sensor, along with the LED flash and maybe even the microphone, they all get moved to the far end of the camera bump.
Which stretches the bump out into that long bar shape to accommodate them.
Precisely. It becomes a structural necessity to house all the components shuffled around by that larger rotated telephoto sensor. It's quite an ingenious, if visually dramatic, packaging solution.
That actually makes a lot of sense from an engineering perspective. But okay, what about the look and feel and, the practicalities? We've all dealt with phones wobbling on tables because of the camera bump.
Oh yeah, the wobble factor is huge in the online discussions around this.
I bet.
Aesthetically, the rumors suggest the bar area will be the same color as the rest of the device. So not like the two-tone pixel look as some early mock-ups showed.
Okay.
And interestingly, there's talk of a half-glass, half-aluminum build for the bar itself. Maybe glass over the main camera area for wireless charging compatibility, and aluminum at the ends for durability.
Interesting mix.
But yeah, back to the wobble. A lot of users are really, really hoping this wider, flatter bar design will finally let the phone sit properly on a table without a case.
Please let it be true.
Right. And the wobble. However, some people commenting on these leaks have pointed out, well, if the individual lenses still stick out above the surface of the bar,
the wobble might still be there.
it might, frustratingly, persist. We'll have to wait and see how raised the actual lenses are compared to the bar itself.
It really is such a delicate balance, isn't it? Trying to push the camera tech forward, dealing with the physical constraints, the design look, and then how it actually feels and works for the user day to day. Like, does it rock when I type on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And beyond the wobble, the main challenge for Apple with this rooming setup will be making sure that bigger 48MP sensor and the rotated lens deliver consistently great results.
Right.
Even with a larger sensor, 48 megapixels means relatively smaller individual pixels compared to sticking with 12MP on the same size sensor.
Right. More demanding.
Which means computational photography becomes even more crucial. The software has to work harder to process that data, reduce noise, and enhance detail, especially in low light, to really make that hardware shine.
Okay, that's a perfect segue. Section 3, connecting these dots.
Yeah, the common thread here, if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, what really stands out is how both of these developments, the completely invisible under-display camera tech and this very visible redesigned iPhone camera bar, they're both deeply connected to and driven by advances in computational photography.
Okay. Explain that connection more.
Well, for the UDCs, it's fundamental, right? Computational photography is the only thing making them viable. It's the software doing all that complex image restoration we talked about, turning those optically degraded images into photos you'd actually want to keep. Without those algorithms, the UDC concept just wouldn't work for quality photos.
So software makes the hardware possible.
Exactly. And then for the rumored iPhone 17 Pro, even though it's a physical hardware redesign with that bigger sensor and rotated lens, the move to 48 megapixels on a telephoto, even with a larger sensor, brings challenges with light gathering noise, like we said. So sophisticated computational photography becomes more critical than ever. It's the behind-the-scenes intelligence that has to process, enhance, stitch together data, maybe do more advanced HDR noise reduction, all to optimize the final image from that new hardware.
So in both cases, software is playing a massive role, either enabling the hardware or maximizing its potential.
Absolutely. It's not just a niche thing anymore. That Computational Photography Market Report 2025 we mentioned, it underscores that this whole field algorithms, AI for imaging, processing pipelines, it's a huge area of investment and focus for the entire industry globally. It's where a lot of the magic is happening now.
So what does this all mean for us, the users? It sounds like the camera isn't just the lens and sensor anymore.
Not at all. The camera is increasingly a combination of the hardware and the incredibly intelligent software behind it. The true magic, as you say, often lies less in the raw light captured and more in how that software processes, corrects, enhances, and sometimes even creates the final image based on that light.
Fascinating. So we've covered quite a journey here today.
Yeah.
From the really futuristic goal of making cameras totally disappear using some seriously advanced image restoration, all the way to the practical nuts and bolts hardware changes and design shifts needed to cram even better but physically bigger sensors into phones like the rumored iPhone 17 Pro.
And the thread tying it all together, whether the camera is hidden or prominent, is computational photography. It's the software, the algorithms that are quietly, or sometimes, like with the iPhone bar, maybe not so quietly transforming how our phones capture the world.